Do you think a man should open up emotionally to his girl?
Yes. Like, why wouldn't you?
If you want it to last forever, like in a healthy, normal marriage, like, yeah.
So,
For sure.
so in a healthy marriage relationship, it should be totally fine for that man to burst out in tears.
It would be weird if you didn't.
Yeah.
It would be weird if he didn't burst out in tears in his wife's arms.
Like, you should be completely open with whoever you're with for the rest of your life.
Nice try.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna happen. You have absolutely no idea why you want a man that's emotionally available. You were just told that, so you roll with it. Women will go on and on about how they want a man who's emotionally available and how they want a man who's not afraid to cry and how they want to be able to express their feelings and blah, blah, blah. But self-respecting men know better because historically, culturally, and biologically speaking, women want their men to be stoic. They want them to be able to control their emotions in the face of adversity, big or small, because deep down, women do not want men in touch with their feelings because it's considered a sign of weakness. But you are so in love with the idea of a man who opens up to you that you have absolutely no idea what you're even asking for.
Yeah.
Every problem he has, he should confide in her.
Like, why would he hide anything?
You think you'd be able to handle that amount of stress, though, on top of what you're already dealing with?
Yes, he should. If he really loved you, he should be able to tell you anything.
So have you ever been with a guy who opened up to you emotionally?
We don't have to go that far, but...
So the answer is no?
I don't know, but anyways, we gotta
Wait,
get
yeah,
going.
can we get your TikTok so we can find the video?
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
have to go.
Yeah, pull it up. The answer is no.
It's a trap. Well, of course, it's probably a trap.
Well, it's obvious you've never had to deal with that because if you did, you wouldn't be so quick to proclaim that a man should open up to you. Men are supposed to keep those things to themselves because people look to men for leadership and guidance. And if the leader is constantly complaining about his problems instead of solving them, how are you supposed to respect him? You're not. You're immediately going to start looking for someone else because you can't trust him to lead. And when that happens, you're going to stow away every single one of his faults, his insecurities, and problems to use against him at any given point simply because you perceive him as weak. You can't help it because you're going to resent him. You'll also look for excuses to end the relationship because you don't see this man as the stoic leader that you need him to be. And most men are wise to this. They're not going to fall for your petty crap. And that's because
Real men hide their feelings. Why? Because it's none of your f***ing business!
I am 30 years old and I have never had a boyfriend. Let me tell you guys one thing. It is that being single is not scary. I made this video recently to this trending sound. It was like, cheers to Emily, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. I made the caption like, this is what it feels like to be 30 years old and never having had a boyfriend. Well, yes, it does feel like that a lot of the times. You know, you watch your friends and people get into relationships, get out of relationships, find new relationships. Meanwhile, you're mostly just like the third wheel or in failed situationship after situationship.
Legend, third wheel legend, always in the way.
woman, you have only yourself to blame for being the third wheel in your 30s. Now, unless it's for incredibly specific circumstances, 95% of your excuses for quote-unquote never having a boyfriend are most likely stupid, superficial, and influenced completely by Disney movies and terrible advice you got from TikTok. You need to think about it. If all of your friends and family are in relationships or starting families of their own, then you need to look at yourself and realize what you're doing wrong. And if you're constantly getting into situationships, then it's clear your taste in men is about as good as your taste in coping with your failures. You have zero excuse to be single at your age, and if you haven't figured out why yet, chances are you never will.
Of course, yes, that can make you feel lonely or it can be upsetting. Like, I get that, trust me. Even like a kick to the ego sometimes, because you're like, why is this not happening for me? I've seen so many comments on that post like, oh my gosh, like, I'm terrified that this is gonna be me. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. I feel like in society, we look at like being in a relationship as like you won at life. Really think about it. Is it though? Of course, yes, it's nice to find, you know, your partner and like fall in love and all of that, especially in this economy. Financially, yeah.
Give me cancer now, God!
Well, to answer your question under your own logic, if you get into a relationship, then yes, you won at life, clearly because you see relationships as some type of a financial prize. You want a man with money so he can pay for you and your terrible financial irresponsibilities. The love just seems to be secondary. But here's a question for you, sweetheart. If you are expecting a man to take care of you financially, why in the hell should he? What makes you so special? I mean, if I drink a quart of rubbing alcohol and squint really, really hard, you might rate a 3.5 at the absolute highest. Not nearly enough for me to break into my super secret vault of gold to start sharing with another person. It's clear to me that you're desperately lonely and trying to cope with your poor life choices, and you're clearly failing because the sad part is that it was completely unnecessary and could have been easily avoided if you just made slightly better decisions with your life.
I still love my life. I have a great family. I have great friends. I've moved to where I wanted to move. I lived in Florida for 3 years. Now I currently live in Nashville. I have a job. An okay job. Would I like it to pay me more? Of course. I'm able to spend money on myself and things I want to do. And yes, like I said, it can get lonely, but there's like a special type of like freedom that comes with being single. I think if you are single or, you know, are worried that you're gonna be single forever, like enjoy this time, because I do think that we'll all eventually find our person. Like I definitely am still optimistic about that. Take this time when you're single to like really learn about yourself. I truly believe if I ever was in a relationship like in my early 20s, I would not be the person that I am today.
Nobody cares, Sean. Nobody cares.
I see, okay, and what exactly are you doing with all this free time? Are you traveling the world, or painting, or reading books, or are you just hanging out with your married friends and binge watching reality TV while eating expensive ice cream that you can't afford until you have to go to bed with the crushing reality that you have to get up and go to work in 12 hours? Lady, you're just embarrassing yourself now. You're trying to convince yourself that your life isn't completely empty by trying to convince the entire internet that you're happy because the 3 comments you get on these videos you post are the only thing keeping you going in this world. But here's the thing, woman. Nobody cares if you're happy or not, and it's not our job to make you feel better. We're too busy with our own problems to give 2 craps about you. But that won't stop us from taking a break and making fun of you because, come on, you're giving us front row seats to the circus of delusion here. How can you not expect us to sit back and enjoy the show?
Growing up, I've always been kind of like a very big pushover. I honestly like don't think a relationship would have been healthy for me like at that time. Much more confident in myself now and like able to like stand my ground. Also just like knowing that I'm okay being alone is such like, it's really a nice feeling to have because I know that I don't need anybody else but myself. I don't know, I feel like our generation and stuff just worries so much about finding someone to spend their life with. Like if you don't have that, then like you haven't fully succeeded in life. Yeah, I just want the takeaway of this video to be that like being single is not scary. Do not be scared of being single. I just like ranted for 3 minutes. But anyways, as always, I love you guys. Bye.
Oh yeah, you clearly enjoy your life. I believe you. Hell, we all do. You're totally fine with being alone. In fact, you're so okay with being alone, you had to do a 2.5-minute long rant on TikTok about how you are so okay with everything. After all, why wouldn't you be? You lived in multiple states, you have a job you don't care for and that doesn't pay nearly enough, and you go to bed alone every night. And you just told your non-existent future forever person that you're hard-headed, argumentative, and confrontational. Not exactly a winning combo for the self-respecting man. The hard truth is that if you wanted a relationship, you could have had one, no problem, back in your 20s at the peak of your value. Now, you say you never had a boyfriend, but I am willing to bet 50 intergalactic space bucks that there were plenty of men back then who would have bent over backwards to be with you if you weren't too busy putting them in the friend zone. You might as well mull on that. It's not like you don't have decades worth of time on your hands or anything.
The loneliness epidemic is simultaneously fascinating and just sad to me. Because the men who are lonely are primarily incels, right? Like the ones that can't get women, the ones that are trying and then convincing themselves that they're not with women because they don't want to be. But it's just in reality because no woman wants to be with them. And these men inevitably stumble into our comment sections to tell us why we're the problem. And you're gonna die alone with cats, as if that wouldn't be a bonus for most of us. You know what I mean?
What?
God, here we go with the incel argument again. Woman, if you're gonna try to insult an entire group of men, can you please come up with some better material? Now, I know you're incapable of such monumental feats because your brain consists mostly of birdseed that's glued together with your former situationship's DNA, but come on, you could do better than that. Well, I take that back. Maybe you can't. You're too lazy. It's just easier for you to use a sweeping generalization of a complicated social and cultural problem that's never been seen before in the history of man. Because soulless old hacks, much like yourself, think it's funny how there's literally millions of men out there who are lonely to a dangerous degree. We're not talking about men who live in their mom's basement and don't shower for weeks on end. We're talking about average dudes, and that's a huge problem. But because you think industrial grade makeup is a food group, you're incapable of providing anything constructive to the issue.
But they are really clinging to this idea that they are owed relationships with women. They are owed our time and our bodies. They feel entitled to them. And they're slowly realizing that because society is changing and the way that we look at relationships is changing, that's no longer the case. Women no longer need to marry men for our mere survival. That changed in the 70s when we can get our own credit cards.
I don't think any of that's true.
Lady, I'm gonna go ahead and put your insecure fears at rest. You don't owe me a damn thing, and even if you did, I'd forgive the debt because I can think of fewer punishments that would put me through more hell than having to stand with you in the same room for more than 30 seconds. Yeah, there are trolls out there who say crap like that, but we're not talking about them. They do not represent the millions of average men that you constantly bash because you have nothing else going for you in that meaningless barren husk you call a life. Sorry to break it to you, sugar tits, but you actually need a man to survive. There's no shame in admitting it. Should be easy for you. It's not like you have any shame to spare. You're sitting there and making nonsense arguments because you have no idea what you're talking about. What do credit cards have to do with male loneliness? Here's a piece of advice for you. If you're gonna try and make an argument to make fun of us, then you should write that down and see if it makes sense before you regurgitate them out of your mouth hole. But that's only if you know how to write. I'm not sure you do. I think the jury's still out on that one.
And my partner said something super profound about this the other day because I get so many incels in my comment sections. He said to me, no man who f***s does that. No man who gets women goes to random women comment sections on the internet and just tells them about how they're a terrible piece of shit and tell them to make them a sandwich. No man who f***s does that. So now when they come to my comment sections to announce how dry their are essentially by saying things like that, it just makes me laugh. Because I know it's making them cry.
Oh, really?
Actually, we're not crying. We're laughing our asses off. We don't care what you think because you're incapable of any type of deep intellectual thought. You're trying to prove a man's worth is based solely on his ability to arouse your spoiled death canal of slimy horrors, and what you're saying provides nothing of substance and doesn't prove a thing. There are plenty of monks out there who would prove to you otherwise. Sexual contact takes way too much effort for too little payoff in exchange for too high of a consequence. You should know you look like you festered your reproductive organs with at least 2 diseases. You're not being mocked because we're not getting any. We're mocking you because you're old and pathetic. We don't need to bang in order to prove our worth. We're proving our worth to ourselves. We work out, we eat better, and we are legitimately enjoying life. And we take some time out of our days to laugh our asses off at you because sometimes you just gotta laugh at the absurdity of a chick who thinks that laying on her back, spreading open her legs, and getting plowed is some kind of a flex. And that is gonna do it for today's video, gentlemen and gents. And as always, if you find that my particular brand of humor is bringing you to the brink of laughter, then why don't you scroll on down and click that like and subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Let's give the good old-fashioned middle finger to the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for checking out the new video, and until next time, peace out, homies.